Hello everyone, welcome to IQTab. In this video, we will be talking about the Ethiopian conflict, as to how Tigrayan community faced a major backlash from its own government. What was the history, and what is the current update of the situation? Ethiopia is an African country. It is located in northern part of Africa. Its population comprises of many ethnic groups, like Tigrays, Amhara, Afar, Somali, Oromo, and many others. From 1270 to 1974, it was ruled by monarchical emperors. The emperor was the head of state and head of government, with ultimate executive, judicial and legislative power in that country. Finally, in 1975, Haile Selassie was removed following a violent protest against the monarchy, and it was followed by a brutal communist dictatorship, led by Colonel Mengistu, replacing the monarchical government. During its monarchical times, Ethiopian emperors also annexed Eritrea. In 1952, the United Nations decided to federate Eritrea to Ethiopia, hoping to reconcile Ethiopian claims of sovereignty and Eritrean aspirations for independence. About 9 years later, Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie dissolved the federation and annexed Eritrea, triggering a 30-year armed struggle in Eritrea. This was followed by the overthrowing of the empire by Colonel Mengistu. Colonel Mengistu led a very brutal government. He is said to be responsible for death of lakhs of Ethiopians. He also killed large number of political opponents, caused huge protests in the country. Situation of civil war emerged and many militant groups emerged in it. Two of the strongest militant groups that emerged were Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, and Eritrean People's Liberation Front, EPLF. Colonel Mengistu was finally overthrown from power in 1991. Following this, Eritrea also declared independence. Thus, EPLF, that is Eritrea People's Liberation Front, left Ethiopia and went to Eritrea. It left only TPLF, that is Tigrayan's People Liberation Front. As the most powerful militant group in Ethiopia, TPLF formed a coalition with other political parties in the country. It was known as EPRDF, that is the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front. The coalition consisted of TPLF, that is Tigrayan People's Liberation Front, Afar Liberation Front, Western Somali Liberation Front, Oromo Liberation Front and many more. Ethiopia as a country made a lot of progress during this period. They began to develop economically, but they were still not very open and democratic. This made Ethiopia an essentially single-party nation, in which Tigrayans dominated the coalition. Please keep in mind that the Tigrayan community that was ruling the country actually consisted of just 6% of the population. 1995 saw elections in the country. EPRDF won 471 seats while other parties could win just 75 seats. Tigrayans ruled with iron fist. They jailed their opponents and restricted the freedom of press. Time and again, the news also came of the elections being rigged and unfair. In 1998, war with Eritrea began. The Eritrean-Ethiopian border conflict was a violent standoff and a proxy conflict between Eritrea and Ethiopia. It consisted of a series of incidents along the then disputed border, including the Eritrean-Ethiopian War of 1998-2000 and the subsequent Second Afar insurgency. Although Tigrayans were the most powerful party in the coalition, but still the Tigrayan people in the country were amongst the poorest. This caused the rise in frustration among the common people against TPLF and EPRDF. Protests started in 2015 and went on to go till 2017 with the end result of resignation of then Prime Minister. EPRDF now chose Abiy Ahmed as the new Prime Minister. He was known as the man with peace. Abiy was not a Tigrayan, but still TPLF chose him to balance the issue and the ongoing protest. But Abiy started to remove the corrupt TPLF politicians from the government. He also released the political prisoners and gave all the freedom to press. Then, Abiy also started a new coalition party, called as the Prosperity Party. TPLF was also invited to join the coalition but they declined to join. Abiy then reached out to Eritrea and ended the war that had been going on since decades. For this effort, he was also awarded Nobel Peace Prize in 2019. All was seeming fine, but conflicts between ethnic groups was flaming up. Abiy responded but again started locking up political opponents, journalists were put under pressure and police started responding brutally to the protest movements. Then came COVID, elections were postponed in Ethiopia, oppositions accused Abiy of using COVID as an excuse to postpone elections. Tigrayans went one step further and conducted their own elections. This was followed by heavy mobilization of Ethiopian military troops. When US elections were going on, Abiy said that Tigrayans had attacked a military base and decided to respond with military action. Thus, warlike situation began in Ethiopia. This was termed as a law and order operation in which the politicians who had defied had to be brought to justice. Abiy said that this would be over in weeks and would be completely bloodless. This was followed by complete silence of news from inside of Ethiopia. After a few months, when the news started to come in, Tigrayans were found to be fleeing Ethiopia and migrating to Sudan. More than 60,000 Tigrayans had supposedly moved out of Ethiopia. News came of huge massacre of Tigrayans and widespread sexual violence that took place. Even the migrated camps showed signs of widespread hunger and helplessness. Land is said to be fertile, but the farmers are not allowed to plant crops there. Ethiopian government is also accused of destroying supplies and cutting off regions controlled by Tigrayan forces. Starvation is being used as a weapon of war, as a weapon of mass elimination. More than 5 million people are directly affected due to this crisis. Refugee camps where Tigrayan people flew have been shown as completely destroyed. And all the humanitarian supplies have been looted and taken by the Ethiopian military. The major twist here is that the Ethiopian military is not acting alone. It is said that Abiy allied with Eritrean military to attack his own people. Now the major question to think here is that, why is Eritrea helping Ethiopia in this internal matter? The main reason behind this is that when Ethiopia and Eritrea went to war, it were the Tigrayans who were in power. So, indirectly, Eritrea is taking revenge from Tigrayans for that war. Along with that, Eritrea also sees Tigrayans as potential threat to its national security. Internationally, there has been a lot of pressure on Abiy to stop the fighting and send the Eritreans home. Now the pressure has started to work and the Eritrean military are finally starting to pull out of Ethiopia. Ethiopian government also recently announced a ceasefire, but it was rejected by the TPLF. They are saying that they won't stop fighting unless all enemy troops have left the region. Ethiopian government continues to deny all the humanitarian crisis, even when there are trucks with aid that are standing outside towns and the connecting bridges are laid destroyed. Some experts suggest that Tigrayans should separate and form a separate nation. But it would be disastrous. It can even lead to more violence in the long term. This will also set a bad precedent and other ethnic communities in Ethiopia may also try to secede from Ethiopia. Ultimately, it might bring the fall down of Ethiopia in smaller parts. Ethiopia is the second largest African country in terms of population and seventh largest in terms of GDP. Only solution to the present crisis is to get all the ethnic communities and political parties leaders to sit together and negotiate a path to peace. National dialogue process is the need of the hour. But instead, Abiy announced elections that he had postponed. Millions of displaced people won't be able to participate in that elections and the situation may further deteriorate. This was all about the Ethiopian conflict. I hope you got a good idea of what's happening in Ethiopia at this moment. Let's take a moment to pray for the safety of all people there and the violence to end as soon as possible. You can now use this understanding to understand the daily editorials or news that come in newspapers. For more such videos, please like and subscribe to IQTab. If you like this video, also share it with your friends and colleagues. Till we meet next time, have a good day and take care of yourself.